Let's get it. This is Life's Essential Ingredients with Jeff and a Mike, where we hope to inform, inspire, and transform lives, one essential ingredient at a time. Welcome to the show. Oh yeah, listeners, here we go again. Thanks for tuning in to another episode, Season 5, Episode 5, with Dr. Derek Alessi coming from East Amherst, New York. And I didn't know this, but he just told me, and he's a big nutrition guy, so I shouldn't say this, but it's the home of the chicken wing out there. So I'm learning stuff all the time. But if you are new to this show, first of all, thanks for tuning in. And you're obviously not aware, but this show is part of a nonprofit. And we're the only nonprofit to utilize the pizza making process to create space for our companions to be seen, heard, and loved. We also write children's books. And then we use the most amazing hand-tossed homemade sourdough pizza to bring out the best in each other. So if you're interested in checking us out in that space, go to pizzadays.org. So let's get into our guests. And I always like you to know where you can find him. And so he's all over the place, but hopefully I got this site down right. But the best place to find him is strengthgenesis.com. strengthgenesis.com. So about our guest, as America's premier health advocate, Dr. Derek's core belief is that health and fitness are not a result of gimmicks, hype, or the latest butt buster. Instead, they are achieved by understanding the physiological complexities of the body and the synergistic role that the right kinds of exercise, along with supportive nutrition, can play in unlocking the healthy body that is inside of every one of us. That's a whole bunch in itself. Dr. Derek is passionate about body fat reduction, medication reduction, and helping individuals improve the quality of their lives. Dr. Derek owns and operates Dr. Derek Health and Fitness, has appeared on over 2,100 TV and 400 radio programs throughout the country, is featured in a national print media, including Maximum Burn Fitness for Women and Iron Man magazines, is a contributor to USA Today. So he is all over the place sharing his expertise. So Dr. Derek, thanks for sharing your many gifts and talents, for guiding people on their health and fitness journey, for continuing to be passionate about health, fitness, nutrition, and overall well-being, and for being our guest on Life's Essential Ingredients. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeff. Great. Thanks for having me on. And I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah. I'm excited because I'm going to learn so much. I was telling Dr. Derek off the air that Mike and I started this show just as a way to kind of learn and grow and slowly help people. But I'm always the one that gets so much. So Dr. Derek, don't get it twisted. When my head is down, I'm not looking at any device. I'm taking notes. And so, I love to learn. And I know just from researching, you're going to help me personally a whole bunch. But before we get into that, we always start with a thought of the day. And I've used these thought of the days for, I don't know how many years in my teaching, coaching, just in everyday life. And I say, I like it for this podcast. So it's a quote that I picked after researching you. And here it is. It's from Thomas Edison. Vision without execution is hallucination. Why would I pick that one for you?
I love it. And I like the fact that you picked Edison for me. Couldn't be more flattered. I think why you picked it for me is because it is one thing to have all the right information for health, fitness, and nutrition. Heck, you have to start with information. You can't do it without the thought. But, and as you know this from the school days, if you're not doing the work, if you're not going through the process, you're not going to get the benefits from it. So you need just more than just knowledge in order to pull it off. You need the execution. And then if you put the two together, there is no folly. There is no vision. You have something that will help improve your life.
All right. So I don't know why I was a little bit worried if that was going to resonate, because we're 100%. And those of you that are constantly listening, again, I can't believe it. We're listened to in 58 countries, almost 780 cities. I think we're like 779 cities. So thank you again. But we are 100% on these thoughts of the days, and I'm glad that resonated with you. And I love a lot of what you just said, but I in my notes, I already wrote down process. And I don't know. I guess I'm in just a weird place in my life that I'm retired now with all kind of other issues that led to that. But process has been everything for me. And I don't mean to sound like an old guy, even though I'm starting to get up in age a little bit. But I think if we can help people understand that this thing called life in fitness and nutrition and everything has to deal with process, the healthier and more committed we can possibly be towards just taking one day at a time and understanding and trusting the process when you work with professionals such as yourself who have all this experience, this knowledge, their PhD in their subject matter, and then commit to that process. Good thing will happen. And I love reading your intro about just the synergistic role of the right kinds of exercise along with supportive nutrition and unlocking the healthy body that is inside of every one of us. And that's just the process.
Yeah, that's the process. So I guess the reason why it sounds so crazy is into this day and age, it's so easy to be distracted. Nobody wants to hear process. Process sounds long. It sounds hard. It sounds like, heck, it sounds like work or school, right? And we don't want to hear that anymore. I want to be able to flip to the internet, go on social media and see how can I get results in 20 seconds? How can I do something overnight? How can I do something instantly? I want this instant gratification. And that's what sells. And I think when you look at the diet and fitness industry, they have probably taken advantage more of that than anything else. It's that instant gratification. Now, the thing about it is, and I love relating fitness and diet and health to school. In school, if I did not have good grades, but I wanted good grades, what I could do is I could take the approach of I haven't been going to class, I haven't been studying, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cram for a midterm or a final. I'm going to stay up 2 nights straight. I'm going to get everything I could get my hands on and read it like crazy and try to jam everything in there. Now, Jeff, maybe I could pull off a good grade. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. But I think I could do some decent work for a short period of time. And then, of course, go back to my old ways of not being the best student. And when I see people, when it comes to their health and fitness, they do the same thing. They say, well, it's the beginning of the year. It's New Year's resolutions. It's spring break. It's summer beach season. It's the this, it's the that, it's the other. But when you look at it, they're doing the same thing. They're cramming. So I want to go to the gym every single day. I want to eat perfect keto for 14 days, and I want to lose all this weight. Great. What happens after that? Well, you become a bad student again. You go back to your old ways and you put it back on, which leads to that yo-yoing effect, which is not only not healthy, but also it's demoralizing and you're less likely to do it again in the future. So it can lead to a problem where process doesn't. So now, Jeff, I'm going to give you the other hand. And the other hand is I go to my teacher and I say, hey, I'm not doing well in school. My grade point average is low, but my grade point average is now important to me and I want to improve it. What do I do? Well, the teacher starts giving you the process. They say, well, I want you to go to class and not just selective ones, go to every class. Sit in the front, take good notes, listen, learn, ask questions, and participate. Okay, then teacher, I'll get a good grade. No, now I want you to go home and study your notes. I want you to do your additional reading. I want you to complete your project and your homework. Okay. Then what will happen? Well, then when we do have our evaluations, our tests, our quizzes, our exams, our midterms, our finals, whatever you want to call them, you'll notice your grade point average will start improving. Okay, teacher, how quickly? Can I be the valedictorian overnight? No, you're coming into me as a 65 grade point average student. You're not going to be the valedictorian overnight. You're not going to look like John Cena or The Rock overnight when your body fat isn't anywhere close. It's the same thing as school. It's identical. We understand it for school. But we think there's these shortcut codes when it comes to health and fitness. And unfortunately, you still need a process. The process can change. There's different types of processes, but you still need something just like you would to improve your grades in school.
Man, such a great analogy. And again, I don't mean to sound like an old guy. I know people that tune in like, come on, Jeff, let's not talk about this stuff again. And I'm all for technology. I mean, it's amazing. You're in New York. I'm in California. We're talking, sharing this, people listening all over the world. I mean, this is amazing. So I'm not saying anything against technology, but I do feel like the faster we advance with technology, the further away we can get from process and our expectations. And you didn't use that word at all, but our expectations of this instant gratification, I think, are really going to get more challenging as we keep advancing faster and faster with technology. And then, not to get into like so much of what's going on around the world, but I don't know. I worry, and that's not the right word, but I worry that we're losing people like you who are going to help people focus on the process and hopefully get you back in and teaching this stuff in lower grades, where students, back to your analogy about school, can learn that it is this process and to get away from all this instant stuff. But so how do you convince, the clients that you serve? And I know it's a little bit confusing on my end. I know in researching you have your Alessi Fit site, which is your target group is 40 to like 75 age. And you're helping them do all this stuff that we were talking about, get into this process. And then I know you have your other site, your Strength Genesis, which is your product site, and you have all these books, which we'll get into all this stuff. But yeah, how do you, if you're a parent, let's just put it in context. If you're a parent and you have, children, teenage children right now, and life is busy, you're a single mom or a single dad, working 2 jobs, your kids are busy doing their stuff and barely able to have dinner. How do you help that family be able to take action towards creating a process so they don't have to come to you when they're 55 like me and their body's all broke down and everything else, and all right, now I'm trying to play catch up? Well, yeah, no, it doesn't really work like that. So any thoughts on that? And I know that was not too clear and a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, no, you have every right to be somewhat concerned. You can see that this whole thing is accelerating. People are more distracted than ever before. You think that you would see through some of the phishing and some of the scams that go on in health and fitness, but you don't, because they just keep wrapping them in a slightly different way. So, you have absolutely every reason to be somewhat concerned with the whole thing in the process. And talking about being a parent, so I have 3 kids, and they're all teenagers. So I'm completely surrounded by teenagers, 2 boys and a girl. When it comes to the process, I think it's the parents' responsibility, even no matter how busy they are. Yeah, some people are very busy. They're holding down 2 jobs, 3 jobs at a time. They might not have a lot of help at home. But the language that you use, the priorities that you set, the direction of your sales makes all the difference in the world. And also, you're not able to hold on 1, 2, 3 jobs or more if you don't have some type of process. The process has to be everything from such as you're going to wake up in the morning, you're going to brush your teeth. You're done brushing your teeth, you're going to have breakfast. You're done breakfast, you're going to get dressed and get ready for school or work or whatever it is. That's still all a process. Now, most of us can do it and repeat it in our sleep because we've done it so often, but every process can be somewhat refined. We're going to do the same thing, though, for health and fitness. And we want to do it in a way in which you don't have to think about it. So eventually you get so good at it, you don't have to think about the process. You know the process. You already know that you should wake up and brush your teeth and take a shower and get dressed and have breakfast. I want your health and fitness to be the same way. I want these certain days you're going to exercise and how you're going to exercise and what that's going to look like. When it comes to food, same type of thing. Hey, we eat these foods on a regular basis. These foods less occasional, and these maybe not that occasional at all. We're going to put together a process. All right, so what is the pot of gold at the end of it? Why? What's the buy-in for a kid, right? So you talked about teenagers. I got 3 teenagers. It doesn't matter if you talk about their health, because as a teenager, that's not on the radar. They're not worried in their mind about the effects of aging, diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure. It's just simply not on their radar. But what can be on their radar is, how are you going to feel? How are you going to look? What are you going to look like to yourself? What are you going to look like to your peer group? That's something that will get their attention. If they play sports, my kids play sports, it's the same type of thing. How are you going to perform? Do you want to perform better? Is performing better a goal for you? I think you have to try to get as much out of the kids as possible and then rephrase it back into their terms, right? So the whole Socratic method, keep asking questions to lead them down that path to make sure that you're creating the process, but you're allowing them to be part of it. Now they're part of the process. They're part of what they're trying to achieve. I love giving kids a decision. They could make a choice. Would you rather work out tomorrow morning or afternoon? Now they're picking and choosing. Would you rather eat this chocolate Saturday or Sunday? I'm letting them pick their path. And I think if you could do that, it doesn't have to be that fanciful. Heck, you could even use technology to help you do it. You could send them automatic messages through your iPhone, SMSs, a lot of different ways to help use technology that we were just talking about, all to help better their life and do it in a way that you're building the habits so that they're locked in there long term.
I love it. I'm all over the place in this episode. I want to get us back on track a little bit, and there's just too much to get through. But I do, the show is called Life's Essential Ingredients. And obviously you got a lot going on. You're all over TV, radio, writing books, got your business, got your supplement business. I mean, lots happening in your life, just like our listeners. So what are your life's essential ingredients? You talked about your routine and your habits and things like that. So how do you do what you do with the intent of maybe the listener can take in and say, hey, I can incorporate something like that into my life?
It's been a slow build. So just so you know, I'm going to try to condense 30 plus years into a couple sentences here. So when people ask me, how did I become a nutritionist and an exercise scientist? And the answer is I never decided to. I was going to be a dentist. So when I started undergrad, I was going to be a dentist, and I really was going to be a dentist for two reasons. Reason number one is I had an uncle who was a very successful dentist, and I was following his footsteps. And number two is I was 244 pounds in high school. So I was very heavy, very early on in my life, both sides of the family from Italy. So you can imagine anything Italian related, any Italian delicacy, all the pastas, all the homemade breads, all of those things I had a lot of. I missed out on nothing growing up when it came to those foods in droves, which also put my weight very high. So this all came to me after that. I had to take exercise science classes as a prerequisite in undergrad in 1989. In 1989, exercise science wasn't a very well-known subject or topic area for majors. So it was in the early days. And what dawned on me, Jeff, is I never knew that there was a science to exercise. I thought it was something that people just did. They would jog, they would do this, they would do that. But I had no idea there was any real science behind it. So it intrigued me. And then what I realized is it was really speaking to me in order to help change my body, which I was very unhappy with, very heavy. I had a 42-inch waist pant in high school. I wore my father's clothes to my 8th grade dance. I didn't want to be heavy, so it spoke to me. I changed my body, lost all this weight, and I said, boy, what if I helped other people do the same type of thing? And that's kind of how it kickstarted me into this whole field. Now, what I build upon for today's day and age for the process is this, is I put a lot of attention, of course, into my exercise, and I prioritize it. And I do it ultra early so nothing could get in the way, nothing at all. So to make this sound really gruesome and people to say, boy, I would never want to do that, I'll say it anyway. I usually, in my office, of course, I have two buildings that are next to each other, and they're both gymnasiums and fitness studios and nutrition labs. But I usually get to work a little before 3 a.m. And the first thing I do is I work out. And I spend an hour working out no matter what. And get this, when I work out, I don't listen to music, I listen to podcasts. I'm going to start listening to your podcast now, too, because I'm going to put that in the repertoire. Why not learn while you're working out? Oh. So that is something that is super important to me, is getting my exercise in early so that nobody could get in the way and distract it. I'm prioritizing it. And then after that, I get into my day.
Man, that's powerful. What time do you go to bed?
I went to bed about 4 hours ago. This isn't really me sitting here right now. I'm sleep talking. I go to bed. I have to be asleep. My goal is to be asleep each and every night at 9 p.m. I wake up at about 2:45 a.m., 2:45, 2:40, somewhere in that ballpark, without an alarm, because people will say, well, you're not sleeping enough. My body pops up at that time because I've done it so long, and I'm just ready to go for the day.
And what a great gift you give yourself, though. And I'm sure if something ever comes up where you're like, oh man, wasn't able to get to it, that you're like really just not in the same space mentally, physically, any which way you want to look at it, especially since you've been doing it so long. Man, that's awesome. I do have a question. Let's just go to sleep real quick. Say there's a listener that's just struggling to go to sleep and not able to sleep well and has all kind of thoughts going on, or is planning out their day and like they're going to bed at 9 too, wanting to get up early, but they're not falling asleep till midnight. Any tips that you would give to someone that's in that space, or just in general, just how to sleep better?
I have 3 tips. First tip is when you do start exercising, especially when you do strength training, you're breaking the muscle tissue down. That's what strength training is. Everybody's heard the term tear and repair. So the muscle tissue tears and then it has to repair. In order to repair, your body will set you in deeper sleep to access what's called growth hormone. So growth hormone is released from your pituitary in the deepest levels of sleep. So just by exercising, your body sets itself in deeper sleep. You're going to find it easier not just to fall asleep, but stay asleep. So that would be number 1. Number 2 is if you do commit to waking up early in the morning, regardless of the time you went to sleep, you might want to go to sleep at 9, but you went to sleep at 12, as you mentioned. Get up early anyway, still work out, because if you can do that a couple of days in a row, guess what? You will go to sleep earlier. There'll be no choice about it. And then number 3 is this. I also, on top of the exercise, I'm a big fan of meditation and visualization for so many reasons. But one of the big reasons is it helps clear the mind. I think so often we become anxious because we're dwelling in these thoughts that are not helpful. We keep thinking and analyzing them more and more and more. I like to take that time to clear the mind. So meditation is to clear the mind. Visualization is to set the mind in terms of what my goals and priorities are. They can be used hand in hand. But at first, if you just had to choose one, choose the meditation. Do it before you go to bed to clear your mind. In between those 3 things, unless you're less than 3% of the population, you will have success getting better sleep and quicker sleep.
I love it. Great tips. Great tips. So you mentioned mind a few times. Let's just get into mindset, and helping people understand what that means and how they approach. You haven't brought that word up, but it was in every last thing that you shared about how you approach your day and how you are having a mindset to go ahead and attack that workout at 3 a.m. So talk to the listeners who might not be so familiar with that term and how to even kind of take action towards developing whatever mindset you want to attach to it.
Yeah, so once again, I'm a big fan of analogies all the time. Clearly, if you haven't been working out, it's tough to jump in the gym and lift heavy weights because, well, your muscles haven't been developed. Mindset is the same thing. Now, I really wish the school systems did, well, look, I wish the school systems did something about nutrition and fitness as well. But if we really want to get greedy on our wish list, we would put mindset training in there too. So we have these minds, we have this master computer, the mothership, if you will. However, most of us have never been taught how to program it properly for our own use. Yes, I can memorize things. Yes, I could memorize spelling words and when the Battle of Bunker Hill was and all these things. But how do I use it for myself? How do I use it to help control my emotions, my moods, my outlook? How do I do it to help program my goals, my mindset, my relationships? All of those things are a big component of the mindset by itself. Now, I think it goes well beyond wishful thinking or positive thinking, terms that people have heard all the time. But eventually, you have to get to the mindset where you're very familiar and comfortable with what you're doing. Now, this could be a separate discussion in and of itself, and we probably could speak 13 hours on this and we wouldn't even scratch the surface. But ultimately, what we're doing is we're running this computer script based upon our mindset 24/7. And if a person doesn't like their physical fitness, they don't like their energy, they don't like their health, they're all over the place, they're anxious, their job, their school, their grades, everything's suffering. You have to look at the script that's running in your brain. because that is what's controlling your outcome. Change the script, you're changing the outcome. So if you want better grades, if you want to have a better career, make more money, more friends, better body, better health, all of those things and so much more is in the mindset by itself. Start working it like a muscle, it will improve.
Man, yeah, I love everything that you're sharing, and I don't want to get us on a different segue, but I think it relates to it. Is just the feedback. Before coming on with you, I was got an email from Gallup, and looking at our nonprofit tries to go out and help businesses and people perform. And a big part of performing is getting feedback. And then in listening to your mindset, it really is all the feedback that we're giving ourselves. Which is so cool in the work that you're doing and helping people, because you're enhancing the nutrients that they're giving to their body, which is then going to give them feedback. Man, I just feel better. You're taking the physical fitness part, which you have subjective and objective data that you're able to gather and give them feedback, and so I think sometimes, when we don't have those, we get lost, and not to mix in the Gallup stuff, but yeah, employees are talking all over the world. Oh, hell yeah, I'm not getting any feedback. So I'm disengaged with everything that I do now, and not developing the mindset, not taking action like you're doing at 3 in the morning, and just get back on that kind of wheel of distraction and just going through life without really getting this deeper meaning to what the heck it is that we're here on this earth to do, and to share the gift that we all have. And so I don't really know exactly where I'm going with this feedback piece, but I think it's worth talking about because, what are your thoughts on it?
I think we're capable of creating the life that we want and desire, just as we're capable of creating the life that we don't want and don't desire. We're good at that. We do that all the time. And it comes once again back down to that mental programming of what's going on. I don't mean that to be dry for your listeners right now. You might say, oh, this sounds like a psychology book. This sounds boring. This sounds like the power of positive thinking. It's all that. It's simpler than that. It's simpler. It doesn't have to be dry. It doesn't have to be too much psychology involved with it. But your body, your life will mimic what your mind is thinking of. It's very easy to see. If on a Monday morning somebody says they feel tired, the first thing they do is start yawning and their shoulders droop, head goes down, and they're not moving very quickly. If somebody says on Friday they feel great, all of a sudden their head is up, their shoulders are back, and they're smiling. All of those are just your mind talking to your body and providing feedback. That's it. So now, if you're aware of that feedback ahead of time, you already know what's going to happen. Change what you're talking about. And you don't have to wait till Friday to smile. You don't have to wait till Friday to feel good. Give yourself that feedback ahead of time. Do that. Change your shoulder position. Change your thoughts. And if you do that, everything starts improving immediately. Now, does that mean that you're going to win the lottery overnight, or you're going to be the CEO of some major corporation? Probably not. It's going to take more than just some quick thoughts. But all of a sudden, things start compounding. They start getting better, and you start getting better at that skill. It's a muscle on a day-to-day basis. So to tie in a bunch of different thoughts that we just had, mindset, feedback, how you talk to yourself, routines, nutrition, feeding yourself the right ingredients, all of those things has been really the study of my life, from my clinic, which I've been doing for 30 years, to Strength Genesis, which is a food nutritional company, all built around those principles of fueling your body, feeding your body the right information and the right nutrients.
And well, let's get into that's a good segue, because I definitely want to tap into your expertise, and it's for sure, I think, confusing. It's hard to find. I'll use the word trustworthy, but it's hard to find accurate information of what we are putting into our bodies. So if you could do a quick, I don't want to lose the listeners, but if you could do a quick kind of breakdown of, what is it we should be eating on a regular basis? And I know that's different for every age group. what your targets are as far as your fitness, but let's just take an average, 40 to 50-year-old that's trying to develop their health a little bit. But how many carbs, protein, what are good sources of that, vitamins, minerals, and then even get into, your company now of, do you need to take some supplements, to enhance the nutrition that you're putting into your body?
Yeah, and just before we jump into it, I should also mention this too, because people ask me all the time, how do I know the difference between a supplement and a food nutritional supplement? And it's quite simple. If a product has a nutritional label, it's a food. If on the back of the container, if it has a label that says supplement facts, it's a supplement. And I mainly deal with foods more so than supplements. So just to give a distinction between the two. And what we did at Strength Genesis was this, is, as I mentioned, for 30 years, I've been working in my clinic, helping individuals drop body fat, get fit, improve their strength, change their lifestyle, reduce or eliminate medications, live longer, live better. And I do work with people over the age of 45 now, but I didn't start there. I used to work with a ton of athletes. Hockey players I probably worked with the most living outside of Buffalo, New York. So I worked with a ton of hockey players. I've worked with Olympic boxers, professional race car drivers, athletes at every single level, basketball, football, you name it. And the principles can apply to every group. I'm a huge fan when it comes to food of food quality. What does that mean? Well, in the simplest terms, if I said, eat steak, am I getting a $50 filet mignon, or am I getting a $3 grizzled leftover steak at a buffet? So there's different qualities in food. They're both steak, but they mean completely different things. So I'm all about quality as much as possible. The right proteins, the right fats, the right carbohydrates. So when it comes to food, really, Jeff, you only have three choices. I want to simplify this for everybody. You have three choices when it comes to food. It's going to be protein, fats, or carbs. There is nothing else. That is it. Anything you can name is one of those three things. Some foods are combinations of them. However, everything falls right there. Now, the first two, proteins and fats, you must take in. You got to take them in or you will no longer live. So they are required. In fact, even the word protein is a Greek word. Pro is primary or first. Teen is importance. First importance. Because that's what rebuilds and repairs your muscle tissue. So proteins, fats. Now, fats is interesting because when I got my master's degree in nutrition 32 years ago, we were trying to figure out ways to reduce or eliminate fats from the American diet. That was the thought at the time. We were wrong because we came from a place of higher fats in our diet before the 70s. It was higher fat, and we've returned back to a higher fat, which is a great thing, although the quality of fats matters a tremendous amount. So we do need fats in our diet. They just have to be the right qualities. The last thing, carbs. And of course, carbs are probably the biggest buzzword of them all right now. Yes, carbs are just different elements of sugar molecules, every single one of them. But once again, they're not all equal. Some are extremely beneficial, lower in glycemic impact, which means it doesn't release as much sugar, loaded with vitamins, minerals, and fiber. So you think of things like vegetables, nuts, certain fruits. And then when you think of carbs, though, you could also think of some of the really bad things, some of the things that will spike your blood sugar levels, like cereals and breads and crackers and soda pop and ice cream and candy and things like alcohol, things like that. So those are really the elements that we're dealing with. And whether you're a 55-year-old, as you just articulated, an athlete, elderly, doesn't really matter. You need those three things. And I'm always looking for quality of those three things. And that will benefit everyone, even before we get into specifics of what diet should look like.
Mm. Yeah, there's so much, in that space, which is why, I'm glad that there's so many, and for some reason it happens on our show here, but we get so many coaches, and I'm not going to call you a coach, but you're in that space, of taking your expertise, sharing your knowledge, and then disseminating it through, whatever it is your business is, which is what you guys are doing. But we need help because it's confusing. And then you go in and we talk about distraction. When you go to the grocery store and I'm looking for some peanut butter, And wait a second, I got 42 choices of what I can do, which is why I think it's just important for us all to slow down a little bit, figure out, hey, what are those essential ingredients that we need as far as the fats, protein, and carbs, the ones that are going to help me achieve the health that I'm seeking, and then stick to kind of that game plan.
Well, that's exactly it. So, at Strength Genesis, what we have on there is exactly that. I mentioned quality before, and quality is paramount. So I just mentioned some words about dietary fat. What people don't realize is we need dietary fats to produce hormones and fuel for our brain. Super critical, super important. Okay, so what fats should we be taking in? Well, we happen to sell a ton of fats, and we sell them in a couple different ways. First and foremost, people like to cook, people like to bake, people like to saute, they like to make scrambled eggs, they like to make a lot of different things. We utilize this oil called Australian macadamia nut oil. Have you ever had it before, Jeff?
Not the macadamia nut oil.
So the code name for it is liquid gold. It's liquid gold. And when you look at it, you'll know why. It's this bright gold color oil. Now, this macadamia nut oil, why is it even important? What makes it so good? Well, I mentioned before that both sides of my family came from Italy. So I was born and raised on olive oil. Everything had to be olive oil. And olive oil is a very, very good oil. Extra virgin olive oil is tremendously beneficial and healthy. People have known that for centuries. But olive oil is not a good cooking oil. And a lot of people don't know that, because it breaks down over 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is easily to do when you cook or bake. So this macadamia nut oil, believe it or not, is even stronger in good omega-3s than even olive oil, which is hard to believe because olive oil is certainly no slouch, but it holds up and rated to over 515 degrees. Now, personally, I've taken it up to 620 degrees without it even breaking down. So extremely tolerant of heat. But lastly, in what gets everybody and why they consider it their new favorite oil is it tastes nutty and buttery. Mm. So olive oil can be a little bit bitter if you've ever just had it on a spoon. This stuff you could drink because it tastes like this nutty, buttery liquid gold. So that sells people. So if you make your eggs, you make your vegetables, you put your meat in it, all of those things. If you want to bake with it, it gives it this wonderful texture. It's super easy to work with, very durable, awesome oil, which help improve your health. So fats are key. And that one I think applies to almost everybody. And when I mentioned olive oil, right now we've put together the only 100% extra virgin olive oil. It's called Origin Salad Dressing, in which there is no filler preservative oils. It is so pure that you do not refrigerate after opening. So when is the last time that you saw salad dressing that you didn't refrigerate after opening?
Oh, it doesn't happen.
And the reason why you have to is because they mix it with soybean oil, canola oil, or some type of preservative oil to keep it shelf stable. We didn't. We went with 100% extra virgin olive oil and different types of spices. So you put it on your counter or in the cabinet after you use it. It is that pure. So you'd handle it just like you would handle extra virgin olive oil. Now, over the last 3 or 4 months, that has been ridiculously popular. We have not been able to keep it in stock. So we have very frequent sellouts of Origin salad dressing on our website. But those are just 2 classic examples of how to get better fats in your diet that aren't things that come out of a wrapper or out of a bag or out of a box. And these things will help improve your health. I would call them one of life's essential ingredients.
I love it. I love it. And so let's just go real quick on the fats. So when we're taking in the right fats, that's helping within our body, our HDL and LDL. Can you talk about those and tying all that together for the listeners so they make sure, and then maybe even, I know you're not a doctor, you have your PhD, but maybe even, and I don't know if you do this for your clients as part of their workup, but are you doing blood work like at the start of your assessment and working with your client to look at all their triglycerides, all their cholesterols, their HDL, all that stuff? And maybe there's listeners that, man, I haven't even had my blood checked ever, to know where they're at.
Yeah, I'll start with the last part of it first. Yes, every person that comes on for a consultation, we look at their lab panels, and we're looking at their metabolic panel. We're looking at their lipid profile to make sure that they're in the optimal zone, because reducing and eliminating medication is a big focus of a lot of people. I don't usually meet too many people that say, I hope to take more medication in the future. Most people want to reduce, they want to eliminate, they want to get their quality of life back. When it comes to fats, and I said this maybe very quickly before, but fats are essential because they build our hormones. So the group of 201 hormones in your body collectively is known as your endocrine system. And I usually spend a lot of time talking about insulin, which is an extremely important hormone. People think of thyroid, people think of testosterone, people think of estrogen, people think of cholesterol. You just mentioned it. Yes, cholesterol is a hormone. Now, not everybody knows that. Many people think cholesterol is plaque. It is not plaque. It has nothing to do with plaque. The plaque that gets inside your vessel walls around your heart or gets inside your brain that could cause dementia, that is plaque that's built from calcium. It has nothing to do whatsoever with cholesterol. Now, that being said, is there a right ratio or is there a right breakdown of cholesterol panels? And the answer is yes. And if you've been watching, it has been changing rapidly, especially over the last 10 years. So years ago, we used to want to try to drive people's cholesterol levels down lower and lower and lower than ever before. And we were ridiculously successful of it. However, we were also inciting diabetes and dementia. So nowadays, anybody in my space that is a health and fitness coach, nutritionist, anybody that works on longevity does not want low cholesterol. Low cholesterol will shorten a person's life. That is usually the opposite information that they've been getting from television commercials, drug pharmaceutical companies, and their doctor, who are saying lower your cholesterol, cut out all types of dietary fat, take the statin medication. Once again, what you hear and what's actual are two different things. So when you're taking in the right fats, your cholesterol will typically start to go up. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. So I'm going to leave it with this. I don't want to just talk about cholesterol. But when you look at cholesterol, the United States has the lowest overall cholesterol rating of any industrialized nation. We also have the shortest lifespan of any industrialized nation. The countries that have the highest cholesterol readings around the world have the longest lifespans. There is no coincidence in this whole thing. So cholesterol is not what we thought it was years ago. It is completely redefined. And if you haven't heard this yet, you're going to be hearing a lot about this coming up, because we are busting through a lot of these the strangleholds that the pharmaceutical companies have had for so long, just pushing needless and harmful drugs upon people. So that is just the beginning. That's the tip of the iceberg when it comes to your hormone profile, why fats are necessary. And lastly, fats are necessary for brain health. Without dietary fats, your risk of cognitive decline and dementia go through the roof. So macadamia nut oil is a good fat for brain health. The salad dressing with extra virgin olive oil is a good thing for brain health. We have something that's even stronger. It's called MCT oil. MCT oil, a lot of people know as medium chain triglyceride oil, that helps people burn fat. And it does help people burn fat. But even more than burning fat, it also is excellent for brain health and anti-dementia. So you would use this MCT oil in your protein drink, in your coffee, in your tea. Some people are familiar with the term bulletproof coffee or bulletproof tea. What that means is they're taking coffee or tea and they're putting MCT oil in it. And once again, what will that do is it'll help you drop body fat and prevent against dementia. So we do sell a product called high octane MCT oil. It's an organic MCT oil from Indonesia, which is, once again, the top quality that I could find to deliver those good properties for brain health and for fat loss.
Man, again, so much good stuff. Again, Dr. Derek, check out his website, strengthgenesis.com, to look at the products that he's talking about. And I love, in researching you too, just the sustainability approach that you have to the companies that you're working with, the products that you're putting out into the world. And Talk about why that's important to you, and even talk about, and I know most people are familiar now at this point, but all the microplastics that are kind of involved in our body and causing all this damage. But yeah, tell the listeners why that stuff is important to you and your team.
When I started StrengthGenesis.com, I really had two goals, Jeff. I wanted to do, number one, provide the top quality ingredients to people, and we just been talking a lot about that. Always getting the best products that will improve your health, help you lower your body fat, improve your muscle tissue, improve your energy level, your vibrancy, and the quality of your life. The second part of it was I wanted to do it in a way that we could minimize plastics in the environment, but also in your body. Right, microplastics are a big deal. We spent just the last 5 minutes talking about hormones and hormone profile. If you really want to throw your hormones way off, in fact, if you want to throw them right in the trash, increasing plastics in your body is the way to do it. Now, I know many people drink things out of plastic, water bottles or soda bottles. They're cooking and heating in plastic. They're having meals on the run. I get it. People are busy, but keep in mind, plastic is a petroleum byproduct. Getting microplastics in your body, in your blood, in your muscle tissue, in your brain, not only will change your entire hormone and endocrine system, but it also will cause a lot of disease. It'll also cause body fat gain too. Your estrogens will go out of control. So we wanted to package things that were not in plastic. So when you walk into a health food store, you just see miles and miles of these plastic tubs with all the protein powders, all these vitamins, all these pills. We put everything in glass, paper, and in aluminum because we didn't want any plastic whatsoever. Now, in the process of doing something, we created the sustainable product that is better for your body and better for the planet at the same time. So packaging care and the goal of the packaging and the ethics involved with it was something that was super critical to the team. And at Strength Genesis, we've been able to do all of that.
Man, yeah, congrats on all that. And I appreciate the extra work that you put in to that, and knowing long after you're gone, not to kill you off so fast, but that you're not contributing, to making this world so much worse for the people that are going to be here after us. And sometimes not to get off the topic here, but sometimes I think we're not thinking about, well, who's next? And it's my responsibility to create space for them to hopefully enjoy life and be able to figure out their life without us kind of messing it up for them. Let's get in real quick. And then I definitely want to give you time. And do you have time? I know we're kind of going a little bit longer. Are you okay?
I could go very strong for the next 5 minutes.
Okay, Fire, let's go for it. Let's finish up this little segment with the protein supplements. And again, you go to the store, so many different kinds of proteins. How do you help somebody figure out what's actually, because it's not cheap, what's actually can your body take in and use as a source to help build and repair and everything else that protein can do for us?
Yeah, in fact, you just mentioned it perfectly. You walk into the health food store and there's miles and miles of protein. And there's so many different ones, you have no idea where to start. So you ask the kid working at the counter, which one should I take? And you're really asking a college kid what you should be taking in. But he's the only one there at the time, so who else are you going to ask? When it comes to protein, I'm a big fan of New Zealand grass-fed protein. And somebody will ask, well, why New Zealand grass-fed protein? Why New Zealand at all? Well, when it comes to something grass-fed has different standards and meanings in different places in the world. So New Zealand happens to have the highest standard in the world. If they call something grass-fed, it must be grass-fed 100% of the feeding time. Nothing will beat 100%, clearly. The next closest is Australia, which is about 80% of the time. In North America, Canada can call something grass-fed at 20% of the feeding time. And in the United States, we could call something grass-fed at 4% of the feeding time, which is crazy. So the reason why we want grass-fed is because we have a higher quality, cleaner protein source that will get into your muscle tissue. The fancy term is called bioavailability, which simply means if I take in a protein, it will get into my muscle and it won't just be eliminated through the toilet. So grass-fed is the way to go for that. But it also is higher in those good fats that we just talked about. So we talked about the benefits of omega fats with macadamia nut oil, with olive oil, with MCT oil. But protein has fats as well, of course. We know that because whenever you take in a protein source, you're taking in dietary fats as well. So the higher quality omega fats are going to be in the grass-fed. It goes beyond that, though. Grass-fed is higher in iron. It's higher in biotin and a lot of the B vitamins, which of course we're deficient in the United States. So that's why grass-fed is so much more important. And that's why New Zealand is the top of the top. So when you see New Zealand grass-fed, that is the gold standard of the highest quality bioavailable protein that you could possibly get. Now, lastly, somebody might say, well, that sounds great, but how does it taste? And the answer is, it is so light, it is so fluffy, it is so clean tasting. I will be shocked if you try it that it's not your favorite protein of all time. In fact, if you remember growing up, you remember the taste of chocolate Nestle's Quick?
Mm-hmm.
This tastes like that, but it doesn't have that strong sugary aftertaste because there's no sugar in it at all. There's just sweetened with stevia, which is a plant-based sweetener. It comes from the leaf of a chrysanthemum plant. So it is so clean, so delicious. Mix it up. It mixes up super easily down the hatch, and you will love it. And for listeners right now, since protein can get more expensive, use the coupon POD1, P-O-D-1, POD1 for your listeners, POD1 at checkout, and we'll give you a discount on that protein, as well as anything else, the liquid gold, the origin salad dressing, the MCT oil. We have so many other really, really cool cutting-edge products as well. POD1 at checkout.
Nice. I love it. And again, strengthgenesis.com is where you go for that. Last thing, we'll wrap it up to be respectful of your time, but you've got, I think, 5 books out. Highlight whatever you want on those to make sure the listeners know where they can go get them and why they need to check them out.
Well, I'm going to start this in reverse again, too, because the first thing I want to do is if you are listening right now and you would like me to give you a cookbook, I'd be happy to do so. Go to strengthgenesis.com and look for the digital download book of Cooking with Gold. Cooking with Gold is a cookbook utilizing that Australian macadamia nut oil that we were just talking about. But in there, we have 30 delicious breakfast, lunch, and dinners, side dishes, and snacks that you can have utilizing the world's greatest cooking oil. So it's called Cooking with Gold. We have a hardcover version and an e-version, and I will give you the e-version for free. You can complimentary download it right from there. I do have other hardcover books as well, as you mentioned. We have Cooking with Gold in hardcover. We have Lean Dreams and Protein Dreams book as well, which is all about having smoothies. I have a wonderful salad book in there as well. Some of them are for free. Some of them are for a purchase. You can find all of those at strengthgenesis.com.
All right. Last thing, John Austin has a quote that I love. The only thing you take with you when you're gone is what you leave behind. So you have 3 kids. You're still a young man. Let's give you another 50 years. You're on your deathbed, getting ready to take your last breath, and you're surrounded by all those that have been essential in your life. What is it that you want to leave behind?
Boy, I love the fact that you have me living well into my hundreds. I think that's fantastic. Thank you. That's fantastic. I think this is, when you look back at it, we remember the voices of the teachers and coaches and parents that were most influential in our life. And one of the things that I'm always looking to do is to be that voice that's there when I'm not there. I want to leave that impression. I want to be able to help influence in positive ways in person's best interest that'll help improve the quality of their life. So that would be my take on it.
I love it. And with that, listeners, we're out. That's been another episode of Life's Essential Ingredients with the amazing Dr. Derek Alessi coming from East Amherst. Make sure you check out his site, strengthgenesis.com. So much great information. And thanks again for being our guest. Boom, baby. That just happened. We out.